show. My name is Kato Gilbert Vitarho. I am happy to be moderating this show. And most importantly, for the particular topic we are having today, that is so timely in our Ugandan setting. 2026 is on the corner. NRM is done with the primaries. We heard how they were and how they are still going on. And this is now the time to look at what the role of the Uganda Diaspora has to play in the current issues or this coming election. But before we get deeper into that, I want us to have a moment and introduce ourselves. But also for matters of clarity, on this show, I am joined by Francis Kamhanda, who is the ANT party coordinator for the USA chapter. Just in case, I just want to confirm the people I have here. I also have Dr. Alfred Ochen, conflict management specialist from British Columbia, Canada. And I also want to confirm that I have Miriam Chomugasho, director of Africa. Yes, she will clarify when she's in here. But I'm also expecting I'm expecting Major retired Awichi Pola, who is the director of NRM Secretariat, to be joining us. Is he already with us?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here already.
Wow, that's good. We're happy to have you. Okay, so I have that has been a call to just be sure who is in the house, and now we have this time. All of us will take this to just introduce ourselves and tell us what's happening in the environment where you are, in the city where you are, what is taking place, and also maybe tell us more things about yourself and what is actually happening. And then after our introductions, I will be telling you what we will be doing next before we can get into the topical discussion of our today's engagement. Now, for this, at this moment, allow me welcome Dr. Alfred Ochen to introduce himself, and then we shall follow that suit and see who is coming in next. Over to you, Dr. Alfred.
Thank you very much, moderator. Salutations to all the panelists and countrymen and women out there. I'm Dr. Okot Ochen. I'm based in BC, Canada, Vancouver Island. I'm happy to be here. And I would say the island right now is warm, it's summer, and everybody looks happy, though we've been having a lot of challenges with our neighbor. I would say the US, you all know about it. So the economy is up and down. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. Let me introduce myself next as our moderator will be joining us. I'm Miriam Chomgasho, and I'm based in Ohio, USA. Nice to see you, Afande. We waited for you last time, and it's glad you are joining us today. So it's a pleasure. And my fellow panelists, greetings to you. It's too hot here too, and the summer is nice, and we're enjoying it. With a few storms and the floods, I hope we stay safe. A few weeks ago, floods took and destroyed lives in Texas. So we pray that it stays a bit calm and we stay safe until the end of the season. Back to you, Gilbert. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you so much for stepping in and also introducing yourself. I think let's go straight to another person to introduce themselves, and that will be Francis Kamhanda. Over to you. Let's hear from you what's happening around you and the environment, and whatever is on your side, you can give us the information about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert and Dr. Okot and Afande Paula and Miriam. It's always nice having this healthy discussion. My name is Francis Kamhanda. I'm the ANT coordinator for the USA chapter, and I'm based in Virginia, USA. It's a little bit both a mixture of hot and wet weather. Of course, flooding part of it, but here it's not as terrible as as it was in Texas. But of course, the political climate is still hot here, as Hot has said. So we are still navigating through and seeing how things work out. Otherwise, our viewers and listeners, we look forward that we'll discuss something that can take our.
Thank you so much for the introduction and telling us what's happening. It's not only the weather that is hot, but also the environment there is hot, as you say. And now let me welcome Afande Awichi to introduce himself. I'm sure he's on the call. He earlier confirmed his presence, and this is his time. Over to you, Afande.
Hello, greetings to everybody. As you all know, my name is Major Retired Awich. I'm a lawyer by profession, an advocate, but I'm also a director at the what we call the mighty NRM. I'm director for external affairs, so I'm glad to be talking to you, particularly in areas of my mandate. We have done so much in life, so many things that I wouldn't go for it now, but maybe at an appropriate mentioning, if it will illustrate a point, I may mention. But we have done so much in life, and including the army and in the bush. But that is not for now. So I'm happy to join you, and I hope we shall have a fruitful discussion.
Thank you so much, Major Retired Awichi, for that introduction and for making it here to come from the mighty party. Yeah, and I think we will use this moment and pick it up right from there, from what he says, and he has just told us his party, and here in Uganda, the NRM party has just finished the primaries as we prepare for the 2026 elections. And maybe before we dive into the topical discussion today, I would want to welcome retired Major Awichi to just step in here. And I have, because the team here, to listen from him about the NRM primary that we have just concluded. And maybe this won't just be about my moderation, but maybe like something like a Q&A, that if any member of this on this call has any question to put across, then we can have it put across. But also he will also be giving us the updates and the environment of how the mighty party has conducted itself in the recently concluded primaries. Recently I've seen people name it the chaotic party. I've seen people name it all sorts of things because of the environment in which it has been operating for the primaries. But glad to have him here, and I'm sure he will be answering most of these questions, but also giving us clarity on this party. So, retired Major Awichi, Paula, I want to welcome you at this particular point, but also welcome the members on the call to give in those questions. But maybe to just start you off as you step in, you could just tell us how you would perceive of the recently concluded elections for the primaries, because what has been going on around it, what has been said around it, and what we've been seeing, the videos all over the media, and what has been in the papers, is that something that is one would want to say about the mighty party? Maybe you have another view of the mighty party. We want to hear from you, and this is the time you could just give us that brief, tell us about that information, and then questions will come in right from there. Thank you so much, and this is your time. Over to you, Major Awichi.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, going forward about questions, I'm ready to listen to questions, because there's a common saying that he who asks is not at fault. So you just ask and it will be answered. And therefore, questions give you immunity. If you wanted to say, Major Wich, you are stupid, don't say, Major Wich, you are stupid. Just say, Major Wich, are you not stupid? So in which case, I can't say you have said I'm stupid. You have just asked whether I'm stupid or not. So it is me to answer whether I'm stupid or not. In other words, I'm saying he who questions is not at fault. Question gives you immunity. So feel free to ask any question. Now, about the My brief submission now is that NRM is a mass party. A mass party means a party where everybody else can join with minimum qualification. If you juxtapose it to a party like the Communist Party of China, you will find that in China there are 1.5 billion people, but only 90 million are members, meaning that the party is not mass for everybody. It's for a selected people who can meet strict procedures. But for us, as long as you associate to NRM and you want to be a member, it's okay. Now, therefore, when we recruit people to join NRM, you get a challenge of managing internal democracy. And as we know, every achievement that you make, you create a problem. For example, if you're struggling to industrialize, you want factories, you will indeed industrialize. But remember, you'll create a problem of pollution. But we don't run away from industrialization because we fear pollution. In Langis, there's a saying that you don't fear to plant cassava because you fear spear grass. You plant and you weed it. Therefore, we chose to recruit, make people join, then deal with the challenge of internal democracy. So indeed, we have had internal democracy. Many parties have ways of choosing leadership. Some people sit in an electoral college and choose. Others give it to a committee to choose. In our case, we put it in the constitution that the members will vote their party flag bearers, their party representatives, and therefore we have done it. So we have put our internal democracy to test. What has happened is that because we have a big electoral coverage, we have a big electoral coverage than the National Electoral Commission. Why? Because our constitution provides that the lowest unit is called a branch. That is a village. We therefore have 73,000 branches, which is a village level. 73,000. And in all the 73,000, you have to conduct election. Election Commission does it at parishes, meaning that they can join 4 villages. So meaning 73,000 divided by 4 is what you have Election Commission of Uganda doing. But for us, we're doing 73,000. So you can see the challenge you go there. The logistical challenge, the human resource management challenge, the security challenge, including fraudulent activities. So it's a big coverage. Somebody was even saying out of 73, if we had had 1,000 villages with problems, that wouldn't even be much. Still would have passed at 85 or 90%. But suffice to say, we are not excited about having problems anyway. So we have done it. And what did we have in mind? What we had in mind is that knowing the potential challenge that would come, we have built in institutional framework to guard against that. For example, the guidelines provide for procedural aspects of complaint mechanism. That is regulations for anybody to make a complaint in case the person is not qualified with the results for whatever reason. And the regulations provide for a panel of tribunal members. We have the chairman, who is the President Museveni, has formed that tribunal now and is going to engage in its work. So, but you can see that so many challenges came in terms of fraud, in terms of violence, in terms of what, in terms of that. But we are addressing it institutionally as provided for in the constitution, as provided for in the guideline. But the violence was much, and the fraud that we hear that will be sorted out by the tribunal is also much. But maybe in conclusion, you can say, why do we think in an in-house election, in a party election, why would there be this kind of challenges? Many reasons are many. One is that because people know it's a popular party, is one way of accessing leadership. at whatever level, whether parliament, chairman LC5 or chairman LC3. So people take it like a do or die. But also, some people in Uganda, for those who are outside, you may not be aware, is that people take politics as an income generating, and it is unfortunate. So they will always fight their way. Now, when you take the two combined, being an income generating and also knowing that this is a party that can lead you, you really find the challenge and the struggle for it. So, in brief, I think I could make this as introduction about what has taken place, about why it has taken place, and the institutional safeguards that we have that we think we would deal with it. As you all know, challenges are there in election. I think I could stop here for the moment.
Yeah, thank you so much, retired Major Awichi, for that good introduction and brief about the party, and indeed calling it the mass party and defending its position in the country. Now we were going to get into this part of the questions. I want to ask members on the call if there are any questions for Afande. We'll ask Ochen to come first and ask if there are any questions. Also, then Alfred will also come in. Then we have Miriam coming in last, and then he will respond at once to all those questions. And then we can also go to any to our topic of today that we had prepared. But let's get into those questions for the start. And I want to start with you, Ochen.
Thank you very much, Afande Awich. I'm very happy to see you and again hear your voice. I think I began to hear your voice when I was a young man in high school, when you were contesting for CA with the late, I think, Imat Sisi. Yeah, you were a young, vibrant man as usual. So thank you very much for making time to be here. I followed the NRM organization, primaries, and I must say that it was wanting in quality. So I don't have a question for you. I just have some general comments. Yeah, I think to a large degree, I do concur with you that I think most candidates look at the NRM organization as a vehicle that would lead them to victory, because when you join that party, it's always hook or crook, to go through. Like I saw the primaries, how some of the opponents, were treated within the same party. It seems they were like state candidates. Like I know of many areas where they were the so-called state candidates who, even from the flow of results, that lost. But the results were delayed, and then the outcomes were, different. So I'm curious, to know how, your party is going to reconcile and harmonize, the different, parties that were involved in this internal kind of competition. I know that you've kind of indicated that the president has instituted a tribunal kind of being led by Dr. Tanga Odoi, but I don't know if that's going to be a very, sufficient model to resolve the chronic, outstanding, internal conflicts. And it was very clear that, there were biases. For instance, I know areas like in Gulu, you talk of like Bibadege, you talk of, in Amuro, in Clark North, you talk like, you go to Mupigi, even in Barara, there were very kind of contentious, contests whereby the parties are fractured and splitted, and I wonder how you will, kind of harmonize that. And secondly, you are saying that I heard you in your introduction. Of course, you are relaying to the members and the listeners that the NRM is a mass, party. I guess that depends on worldviews and perspectives. To many out there, I think there might be very minimal, genuine supporters in the NRM organization. Others are there just to, harvest some yams and survive. Yeah, and I think from the outlook of these recent concluded processes that you had, is very clear that we are heading in for a very nasty general elections. Because if you can afford, if your party or your members can afford to conduct themselves in such a manner, within a family kind of entity, how about when now is an open contest? Okay. And it was very clear, even in some parts of the country, the security apparatus that are majorly manned and controlled by the ruling party were subjective in doing their kind of peacekeeping. In fact, in some parts of the country, it's very evident that they're even caning people who were in lines to disperse off. If you need, I can tell you more about that. But otherwise, that's my take. Though I must say that, as you said, is a huge, party, and there are multiple people out there, and I think it would be a huge challenge to manage the process. But if you cannot manage just an internal process, then I wonder, the bigger one, the upcoming general elections, how will be. That's my take for now. Thank you.
I was thinking I hear many questions, then I answer them at a go.
Yes, they are coming, all of them. I think you would be noting some, then you answer at once. Let's have Francis come in, and then first you just pose your questions, and if or any general comments you have for retired Major. Over to you, Francis.
Thank you, Gilbert. You see, some of the questions I found may not be able to answer. But
why? Why can't I answer?
Because I will ask, and then I know how some of them are beyond your paycheck. But anyways, I'll first give a general comment. Number one, you still dream that the NRM is a mighty party, which I think NRM is a monster party, is a misleading party, is a terrorist kind of party in assuming leadership because of the actions that it does. Having said that, you are living in an illusion that you make achievements, and in making achievements you create problems. I agree. Generally, create problems than making achievements. Because right now you are busy rehearsing for 2026. That's why we see guns coming up in your primary elections. That's why we see money being dished out. That's why we see you guys beating each other like nothing. But what does that speak? What we have been saying? Poor planning. And that is the poor planning that transcends into the national kind of planning organization in as far as elections are concerned. So you don't have the moral authority to tell us that you have achieved, and therefore in achievement you are creating a problem. I only agree with you that you create problems. NRM, the party that creates a problem. Generally, for all Ugandans to begin now cleaning the mess, I just sympathize when we finally have your government off, and then we begin clearing the mess that you have created for the last 40 years. So having said that, you posture yourselves how you manage to have elections in 73,000 villages, and then you have structures there. Did you know that you inherited structures of UPC? The Manyumba Kumi. Generally, NRM, you robbed, you are thieves, you are known for that. You robbed structures that belonged to all of us as Ugandans. And those were forms of structures that we are using for self-government. And they were very organized. But now you have turned them into a battleground, you have turned them into grounds of hatred and to sow divisionism in the country, so that now people are given peanuts, like you distribute 1,000 for people to vote. That is disenfranchising people, and I don't agree with you there. Instead, you guys, because of poor infrastructure, the fraud that you have, that fraud, now you can imagine a fund which is the same that you are going to do come 2026. Having said that, now let me ask you a question. You recall between 1993 to 2003, when the UPDF went to Congo, you, the UPDF, because now for you are a part of the UPDF, you plundered resources of Congo, and the International Court of Justice levied that Uganda should pay up to a tune, I think, of $325 million to Congo because of that. And remember, these resources that you are plundering for selfish interests, for benefits of individuals, not a country. But here we are, my grandfather, my father, my brothers who were not born by then, they are now paying for you. Now, recently you go back to Congo. I have no problem with that. Like, if you want to secure our borders, whether it was a bilateral agreement between you and Congo, then you go. For your own information, if you don't have, but you should be aware because you share in those resources. Again, you are repeating the same. You are using our children. They are busy in the bush, they are fighting, and they are again protecting you guys, plundering minerals, plundering timber, and exploiting all sorts of things for your benefit as individuals. So can you tell us what is the plan? Are these things that you are stealing now coming to the coffers of Uganda, or again we are going to have another case emanating from the deployment in Congo?
Thank you so much, Francis, for the good views and informative thoughts and the questions you have brought across. I'm sure Retired Major Awichi Paula is noting them, and he said he has all the answers. He never appears to plant cassava because of spear grass. He plants and then the weeding happens. Now I want to welcome Miriam Chomugasho to just also have this questions put across. Also, if there could be any information coming in, also maybe like the overviews or what is taking place according to our analysis, it is also welcome. But this is the time. Over to you, Miriam.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, my fellow panelists. Afande, we're glad to have you today. And my question and comment will be about the NRM primaries. We saw the violence, people were killed and some were injured, and the bribery, the corruption. Afande, with what was happening, looking at the Ugandan demographics, the young people so far who compose 70%, I was looking so keenly to see the participation of those young people, see them contesting for some posts, and given their numbers, they should be strong enough to even make like a big shift in the power setup, in the power structure. Especially when the people voted back. Imagine if youth were voting their fellow youth into those seats, it would make a big difference in the whole national political setup and the demographics. Maybe we would have a chance to change the outlook of the politics and even the ideas that come through through our legislature and other political positions. And I really observed all the elections up to the grassroots level, apart from the youth seats, there were very few young people who were voted. And the reason being the money. There is a lot of price tag that NRM has put on the politics. You need a certain large amount of money to even qualify to contest for a seat, which young people cannot afford. And not to mention the money you need to buy votes to rig, because they've made rigging official. Which is very sad. And going forward, Afande, what do you think is going to be the future of Uganda? We are eliminating young people from participating in politics. The ideal would be a mix of young being groomed by the old who are there, so that we are assured of future experienced leaders. But right now, it's like the old are taking over, and it's like the old on top and at the bottom everywhere. And we're going to have, because nature will take its course, that the old are going to go. And we end up with amateur young people now taking over, who will be adults by that time, taking over leadership without experience, without any mentors. And that goes for the presidency as well. I know there are some young people who have come up to stand for elections, but this goes particularly to NRM party. I don't see any change in NRM party. Instead, the MPs who have even retired, like Sekandi, who was the former, is it Sekanda speaker? I've forgotten the name. The former speaker who had retired is also trying to come back. And then, the major, there is Russia, and they like that old major, the old general who defeated Sechkubo, really elderly, the elderly. If they were competing for the elderly seats, that would make sense. But they are competing for the mainstream. I'm not saying we should eliminate old people from politics. My concern is, where are the young people? Where are the 70% of the population right now? And how can we involve them in the political leadership? What strategies are your party putting there to involve to include young people into the political structures? And if you are denying them access by putting exclusivity on who can qualify, you are discriminating against them because you are putting a price tag they can't afford. You are making elections expensive by allowing rigging, which they can't afford, by voter buying, everything. Where I come from in Ushen is like you have to buy a vote per vote, and it's not cheaply. There are people who are almost paying like $500,000 for just one vote. And that's the trend everywhere in the whole country. If you ask any person who is contesting, you can't contest in the primaries. Ochen here contested in his constituency, so he can tell us. You can't contest in any seat with less than 500 million to dispose of. And that money simply is for voter rigging, not just facilitation for you to campaign, it's for voter rigging. So that is like a technical knockout for the young people. And the politics, the governance question is, we should be grooming young people to take over power tomorrow. And so we are excluding them from any political structures, from any political participation. And so what does NRM envisage as the political future for those young people? And second, another thing is on the human rights. I know, Afande, you're in charge of human rights on NRM Secretariat. But the NRM abuse, not only for NRM members, but for the old opposition politicians especially. And in NRM, there is also internal opposition. If you don't support the favored candidate, you will automatically become opposition. And you can even be imprisoned or killed or kidnapped or whatever. That's why we see people dying, like in Sechkubu's constituency. So if you don't support a person who is favored by the big people, you are also like opposition. You are like Francis, who is in ANT. So as NRM, what is the what are you planning for us in 2026? Because the general elections are coming. If you can't manage your own primary elections, what should we expect? How should you expect you to conduct yourselves in the general elections? Are you still going to deploy the security forces to kill Ugandans? And what should we do? We Ugandans in civil society, in opposition, and everywhere. And another thing, you're looking at I know you define NRM as a mass party, but looking at the party and the participation at the political spectrum, right now, all other political opposition groups, all political parties should be participating in the primaries. But when you look across, you only see, and I saw Michamuta has been nominated, but you don't see them on the grassroots. You don't see them anywhere. And the few who dare step out, NUP is busy. They are also doing their primaries, but they are being harassed by the police. They are being harassed by the security agencies. And I want to refer to what Afande Kayanja, I don't know his rank, I'm sorry, what he said when his own sister was being harassed by the security forces. He said, this is not what we fought for. I know Afande, which you also part of NRA, the original NRA historicals, and you fought for the bush. We know the 10-point program and what NRA fought for. And this is not what they fought for. You fought to bring democracy. You fought to respect Ugandans' human rights, to stop voter rigging. So what happened to those ideals that you were fighting for? Did you give up? Did you admit failure and you just, but you are too shy to step down and hand over to other people to continue that that journey? Thank you.
Miriam, and I'm sure Afande, you have been listening and noting some of these concerns, questions, and all we are targeting, not just the party, but now that you are here, we expect that you, now that the promise was that the questions should come in and answers are assured, we are glad to see you come through and give us input on these queries that have been put across on the mass conversation. Over to you, Afande Awichi.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the concerns and questions raised.
Lieutenant Major Awichi, if you're on the call.
So much.
He's muted.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
I do.
You are hearing me? Okay.
I do.
Fine. Yeah, fine. So I was saying, thank you so much for the questions and concerns. I will comment on them, but if I leave others, will forgive me. Now, about Dr. Tanga Doi and ability to resolve issues. President Museveni said that Tanga will not undo the mistakes he created. That one he said it. And that is why we are saying that Tanga has done his part by conducting the first election. Now, challenges that come should be resolved by another body. That is the tribunal. It sits in the compound of Election Commission anyway. For those who know Chadondo Road, that is plot 13. It sits in the compound, but it should be an independent body different from Dr. Tanga, because these people are complaining against Tanga anyway. If you look at the election petitions, even the national election petition, it is always against the election commission and say the candidate, because the presumption is that it's election commission which had the duty to organize a credible one. That is why in all suits you see the election commission. Therefore, in this case, You can't expect Dr. Tanga to preside over a matter that is resolving his occurrences. So this CED tribunal are competent people who will do the job. We hope so. And we are there watching. Now, somebody still wondering whether NRM is a mass party. I insist it is. For checklists that I put forward, one, the qualification for membership. I already said if you are not a mass party, like the Communist Party of China, you don't allow everybody. By a mere saying a mass party, and therefore maybe his question again was mighty. Once you are mass and you're big in number, then the big number already qualifies you to be mighty. But also the mightiness is also seen from the ability to persuade the people to vote for it. As you all know, all parties go to the masses with their various manifestos. And when the people vote, like in a national election, the people have signed a social contract with the party to say, you, the party X, we have seen your manifesto, and therefore we think it is good. So the majority who vote actually sign a social contract. And to judge our mightiness, we have repeatedly got that social contract from the people. And that shows it. So you need not look any further to know that NRM is a mighty party. The percentage of parliamentary election already shows us that we win a majority with such a big number, and that is a checklist or criterion for determining that party X or party Y is mighty or not. And the list go on and on. I can't count all of them. The other thing is it true that by recruiting or by making the big membership we create problems? Yes, it is true. If, for example, you have a small party like GEMA or some of these small parties, because of their few number, who will go to what difficulty would you have in having your internal election? In fact, I know of some parties who are going to persuade people to carry their flag. They are begging, kindly carry for us our flag, or even buying. So we create problems by recruiting because we have a big number, and therefore you get challenges in picking. Small parties, weak parties don't even have where to conduct election. In some districts, you can even call people in a restaurant, and that is it. Now, about creating problems, we do not believe that NRM create problems. But we also know for a fact that due to dynamicity of society is always dynamic. Challenges and contradictions will always come, and those contradictions, major or minor, will look like problems. And when you reconcile and resolve them, they move us forward. It is the resolution of contradictions in society that propel us to a higher level. But as a party, we solve problems. Somebody again said that we robbed people of the structure, the Nyumba Kumi. Nyumba Kumi, if it is a concept that is agreeable by anybody, by us taking, we have not legislated that no other party should do the same. If we robbed it from UPC and we are practicing the village level, and we made government pass a law that no other party should do the same, then your claim for robbery would be true. But if it is a concept that anybody can do, even in Brazil or in Venezuela or in India, wherever, if you do it, it doesn't stop others from doing it. So where is the claim for robbery coming from? It is it's like somebody who has invented a machine and you don't want anybody else to use it. But if it came, because NRM came after UPC, UPC has been there, NRM was born after. So the claim for robbery would only come if we had stopped others from using the same. Now, will fraud transcend in 2026? We are taking on the challenges that has occurred. The dynamics in the national election may be different, but all I know is that corruption or fraudulent activities is an issue that we consistently continue to fight. So it may come also in the final election, but it will not be like NRM perpetuating. It will be individual voters, which should be dealt with. We were really thinking of stricter legislation because right now the legislation ideally is supposed to be he who offers material gain or gift or money. But we think that it should also be punishing who receives, because all eyes are now on the offerer, but eyes should also be on the recipient. Maybe along this line we could curb something, but 2026 may be there. But, Mr. Chen should know that with our experience in Lango area, I don't know whether it is the entire part of the country. I'm told some part of the countries are worse than us. It's not enough to go and talk to people and say, Mr. Okello, I have left you with 200,000 for water for those who have come because they have to drink water. No way. This time people line up and you give them their own. The way I see a Gulume or some minister giving in Busoga, which is dangerous because the law prohibits, but people do it and it is even video recorded. So on the question of voter fraud, we need to come together. If you think that you're going to point accusing finger at NRM alone, you may not fight the vice because some of us have been fighting it. Congo case. Congo case was unfortunate because we were there in operation. But as I know as a lawyer, Congo case was kind of decided on technicalities. I don't think it is safer to say now that it was a proven guilt or a proven liability for the case of a civil matter. But be as it is what it was decided. I don't know whether there's appellate provision, but it was unfortunate, and I don't think it is a good thing for the country. Now, is what we are still in going to the coffers? That question really is weird because, first of all, it presumes that you have pleaded that currently we are stealing. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know that we are stealing now, apart from the Congo case that was decided. So to ask a question whether what we are stealing now is being taken to the coffers would mean first you consider the stealing now going on, and then we are asking whether it goes to the coffer. I think the question the whoever asked should answer for himself. Now, the Uganda youth position, youth is indeed is in that big number that we have said. It's a big proportion of the society, but the main ingredients to say about the youth position. One, it is not true that all positions are taken by the elderly. I know in many areas, the youth have been elected. In fact, if you take all the members who are elected and get the mean age, that is the average age, you will find that the average age falls very low. The average age cannot fall to an average where you said, you see, look here, it is only the elderly. No. Only that the elderly tend to take visibility. For example, 20 youth can win an election as members of parliament in NRM flag bearer, but they will not attract attention like Moses Avi winning. Okay? Even 50 youth can win flags. They will not attract visibility like General Wasande. So don't focus only on the few that you have seen. We can only say that with certainty. If we got all the candidates who have won, divide their ages, add their ages and divide to get the mean, the average, is when you say, look, figures don't lie. The youth are not elected. But I can state, Uchien can know in the Lao region, constituency by constituency, it is the young who are elected. And that is why you don't see it appearing on the news. Because news is like, as the common saying goes, when a dog bites meat, it is not news. But when meat bites dog, then it is news. That's why the entire area where youth are elected, nothing is said. When you go to a Jumani of Moses, the elderly are elected. You go to General Rasande, the elderly are elected. But you can only say the youth are disenfranchised if you get figures and divide. But also on the youth position about NRM, the youth are with us. That's what I can say without fear of contradiction, including the ghetto which they had. How do I do that? How do I ascertain that? We have had a national election for special interest groups, that is SIG, which includes the youth, the women, the disability, and the elderly. I can assure you we won all, including in the ghetto. And that already makes us say with certainty that NRM now has 24 members, I mean 20 members of parliament. Even before we vote, I can assure you that we already have 20 members of parliament from the four special interest groups. So the youth are with us. We won in all youth areas. All the youth came in and voted for us vehemently. And therefore, it has set already base where we already now can talk for certainty of 5 youth members of parliament, 5 elderly members of parliament, 5 disability, all that. Maybe since you live outside, I can dare explain why. When the youth elect at the village and they elect NRM youth, they go to the parish. It means now the electoral college at the parish is actually NRM, and they will move to the sub-county. It means the electoral college at sub-county is only NRM. Then they move to district, just like that, until they will form electoral college. So meaning that once you win at the village, then because there's no entrance in the middle, so once you win at the village, then you have won. So, and we have won all that. And that is why I'm saying with certainty that we already have 20 members of parliament. So the youth are with us and we are happy. Now, then the other thing is, what is the future of Uganda vis-a-vis the youth? The future of Uganda is in the hands of the youth, no doubt about it. For one reason, that you can't fight nature. The elderly will have to go, whether they want it or not. Two is that, as I said earlier, the youth are very much involved in these activities. Only that, as I repeat, when meat bites dog, it is news. But silently and practically, the youth have taken up all the positions. The other thing is the cost of votes. The cost of votes is unfortunate, and it is not only an NRM factor. It is the national problem is being manifested in NRM. It's just being manifested in NRM, but it's a national thing. And as I said, because we are the party in power, we are thinking of strengthening the legislation that go about with election votes. I'm told in some areas, the candidates give you a voucher. You go and line up. And when you line up, because the agents are there, they come and report, then you come and get your money because you have carried a voucher. If you carry a voucher and you line badly, then you forfeit your money. It is a national crisis. And I was always thinking, this son of Kagota called Museveni, he has tackled very many things, including domestication of the army. The Ugandan army in the past was wild. Museveni has domesticated. How I pray this son of Kagota can tackle election fraud. How I pray that he should do it. He has the capacity, and we are pressing. I sit in top management of the party. I sit in the central executive of the party. I will keep on pressing. But it's a vice that we need to tackle. And any time to put it on NRM will just be a wastage of time. Any plan for 2026? 2026, there's plan. As a party in power, we have availed everything to Electoral Commission. We have availed Electoral Commission with the legislation. They needed laws. We asked them if there was need for any amendment of laws. It was done in anything. If they kept silent, then they knew the laws was appropriate. We have given them the laws. We have given them the finance. They presented their budget in billions of shillings. They said, here it is. They wanted human resource. The money was given for them to do recruitment. If they want security, security will be availed. So 2026, the preparation is clear through the Independent National Election Commission, and Uganda is set to have a very credible election. Any deployment of security in 2026? Yes, the provision deployment of security is that police is in the lead of election management. Police. Now, the Constitution provides that the army can only come in if police request. And even in the party, we have already been telling the military that for us as the political leaders of the party, we believe we are in charge of these matters. In fact, we believe we have the upper hand because we have never gone for an election without a formidable opposition. When we used to go to election with Bessie, you'd go when you are panicking. But when we look around in this one, we don't see any formidable opposition. So we are telling the army, the UPDF, that please leave us in the civility, leave us in the body politic, because we are managing. If anything, we are ahead of our friends. Because if you go there and there's alternation, it works to our disadvantage in power. So you can't divorce yourself from the military, because your party chairman is the commander in chief. Your party chairman appoints the minister of defense. Your minister of defense is the one who should table a bill in parliament in case they want to amend any law regarding UPDF. So we are in charge, we form a government. So, but we are saying that the military proper, the army, should strictly follow the constitutional provision where it is police to call them in case they can't handle. But normally, because of lack of manpower, the police is quick to call the army to even deployment two per polling station. And when the police call the army, it is misinterpreted. So definitely, but be sure that there's been deployment, because we can't allow anarchy. I think I've tried to answer. If there's anything I've forgotten, somebody will have to raise it later. I thank you.
Thank you so much, retired Major, for the good attempt to answer these questions. And yeah, you have tackled each and every person's interest. I had you at least to stress from each and every individual's question. And I think we will now get into the part of this conversation, unless there is any question that someone really feels that from what his answers were should be addressed. At this particular point, I would want us to get into our topic of discussion today, which was prepared, and I'm sure all of us received it. We're looking at 2036 elections, and the countdown is on. And today we are going to look at the role of the Ugandan diaspora in this particular election. Without further ado, we have had this first part of the call focused on the NRM and the primaries and how they happened. And retired Major has taken his time and labored to answer all questions, like he said, and I want to say thank you to him. But at this particular point, I want us to now incline ourselves to this particular question, because ahead of the 2026 that is coming, we are seeing a lot of chaos, but also we are seeing a lot of things fall into play. What is the role of the Ugandans in the diaspora, or the diaspora itself? Because the general elections is a crucial engagement of all stakeholders, including the community that is often overlooked, that is the Uganda diaspora. Today we shall explore the role of the diaspora in shaping our political future, and how the current issues intersect with the national agenda. We have had this, all of us have introduced ourselves, and at least we know who is on the call. And I want us to just get into this first part of the question. What role, or what can the diaspora do in making that? Because like we have had this first part looking at the chaos, we have talked about the military, we have talked about the money, the involvement in this election, and one person was asking if this can happen in an in-house election, what should we expect in the general election? But with all these happening, now the question is, what role can the diaspora play in the 2026 election? I want to begin with Francis, if he's still on the call. I want to begin with Francis on this particular question and let him give us his input or mind about this particular question. What should be, what is the role of the diaspora in the 2026 election, and looking at all these issues around us and what has been happening, and especially what we have even shared so far? What can the diaspora do, or what it is its role in participating and having this process run to the favorable part of every Ugandan or every person involved in this? Over to you, Francis.
Thank you, moderator, for that question. But I told you that I will ask Afanda which the question, and he will not answer. And you saw how he said the question I asked about UPDS in Congo, I should answer it myself. So at least you should know that I knew him, what he can and what he cannot do. Having said that, you were asking the role of the diaspora. Yes, the diaspora, we don't disassociate ourselves from back home, but we are always heartbroken by events that take place back home, and in a way of accepting and saying, let's correct what we think is not working. But people like Afanda, which come and begin defending the indefendable, which is so unfortunate. And therefore, we may not get the correct political dispensation or building the democratic institutions that we want back home. Okay. Before I answer your question, I will first go back to when Afanda, which was discussing, he was completely not aware of the trend that have been taking place in Uganda in as far as elections is concerned. Part of it, you can recall that in 2001, in 2006, and then later in 2016, a lot of these problems were cited in as far as election is concerned. For example, malpractices, human rights abuse, change of the constitution, not changing, raping of the constitution. For example, when in 2005 the term limits were scrapped off just for selfish interest, to serve the interests of President Museveni and his henchmen. Then come 2017, then they scrap off the age limit, because all these were deterrents that for Uganda not to take the route of being a monarchy, of being less into a dictatorship, we can have these limits. Because even when you know how to run, there is a limit where you can run. You know, running a country is like the Olympics of relay. You run your portion, hand the baton to another person like that until you all complete the rest. But all those were not taken into consideration. I expected that Fanda, which is going to talk about the court ruling where it recommended the constitutional reforms, and it gave even a timeline when these should be, so that we have a debate about them, we think through them and not rushing. But because it is the tool that the NRM always uses, so you find them rushing things, stealing. I will insist, they don't do anything without stealing. Generally, these are industrial, they steal at an industrial scale. Everything. We can name it, Mr. Gilbert. We can start from land, they have gone beyond what we can imagine. But if you look at around 10 issues that were outlined in that judgment, which I think Afanda, which should be in the know, he should tell us, out of those 10 things, which have they worked on that guarantees that there is going to be a free and fair election come 2026. Okay, having said that, then let me come to the role of the diaspora. For us as diaspora, we are doing our role. Number one, advocacy. Even right now, as we engage Afanda, which we are doing advocacy, and we have been engaging even other people on this forum and other civic spaces in as far as what should be done right. But it is as if we are writing on water. The likes of Afande, Awich, and his I don't know whether it's whatever he's calling it, that party in power, they don't have any single idea of thinking that they can do some things different to suit the interests of all Ugandans, but rather they think they are the ones who are the state and the state is themselves. That's why, by the way, maybe Afanda, which is not part, but he should tell us, that's why some of them look at Museveni as God. Evidence, you remember your own Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, on a public rally, he said, we have been receiving the Father, now we have received the Son, and so on and so forth. Such utterances, sincerely, they make some of us cry. that at this level, people, that's how they used to worship Mobutu. They had changed. People would pray in the name of Mobutu and of the son and I don't know, of the mother and of the wife, something like that. It's what is happening. That's what Afanda Wich is doing. You hear everything say Museveni, I think Museveni will do this, I think Museveni will do this. They have reduced themselves into paupers that without Museveni, nothing can be done. And we are here to tell them, no, that's not the way how a government is supposed to be run. The second thing that we do as the diaspora, we try to mobilize. We also mobilize the masses, but our hands are tied. I mean, why? Because we would be supporting the ideologies that we believe in. They can go and do grassroots mobilization. But when they go there, including the youth, I was surprised that Afanda Wich is living in mass, doesn't know that most of the youth who have been craving for political leadership and offices are incarcerated, are rotting in prison. Others have lost their limbs. Others have died. Others have disappeared without any trace. And he can't talk about that. So where does he say that there is democratic dispensation in Uganda? I think he's just being dishonest. We have tried as diaspora, we invest in development through our own means, but even I can enlist people whose properties have been confiscated just because of having a different ideology. And that would be one way of ensuring that we develop our country, we participate in its development and so on. And therefore, we find ourselves in a position that we have challenges. For example, we don't have any voting rights. Like, is there a mechanism that can allow the diaspora vote? And if we are to vote, that's why I'm talking of a mechanism. Is there a clear legal framework that the likes of Afanda Wich, they are not going to rig our elections or our votes that we cast in favor of our candidates? If they can do it there, how are we sure that if we vote and we are sending our votes directly or electronically, they are not going to amass all those votes and give them to their preferred candidate? Or, in fact, even just counting them, or they will just get them and trash them. So that is a challenge. Then, the challenge number two, as the diaspora, we often lack accessible to information in as far as government programs are concerned. Why? Because it is a deliberate action. The government is aware that the moment these people in the diaspora know each and everything, how some of these things are, then we are going to fall into trouble, because we are not easily fooled. We can see through things. But because for them, they like a population that is less informed, where they can toss them around. That's those challenges. Then, of course, the NRM has done it very well. That, the diaspora is where you feel united, you feel a sense of belonging and so on. Like, I know if you ask Dr. Okot, if I happen to go and visit him in Canada, he would be more excited and so on. But it is a deliberate agenda of the NRM government to ensure that it sows sectarism and disunity in the diaspora. And it has successfully done that in breaking that. And that is a challenge. And say, can you leave us organize, advocate, mobilize? If in any case, for me, I have no problem if the person I believe in as the president is standing, I can also do finance mobilization to fund their campaign. I don't see any problem with that. So it is important that we look at all these things, and then when it comes to corruption back home, we find it really shaming at the level of how the corruption transcends and even shrinks our contribution as far as we are concerned. There is where you will send, maybe we want to mobilize, maybe send money, and then you'll find a lot of noise will be around that. Oh, this person is getting money from whites and so on, which is not the case. Because how any other person in the NRM, they can mobilize to fund their campaigns. We in the diaspora, we can also mobilize and fund a candidate of our choice, which that space we find in Uganda is being suffocated. Therefore, we say that not until I know we are going to fight for it, because the NRM, this party that the most is well known for terrorism, is not going to give us a space to do that. And that's why we keep pressing and ensuring that as the diaspora, we are part and parcel of what is taking place at home. And most important, we need systems where we are involved and we can also vote and our voice is heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis, for this informative presentation. And you cite out a number of harsh truths about the current government and about the current situation for especially the people in the diaspora. I am sure all of us here have been taking note, especially when he speaks of the sectarianism and disunity that is being created by the people here to make sure that it happens in the diaspora, but also bring it out vividly that there is a lot of militarism happening within the current government. And also he calls for something like participation of the people in diaspora, but also puts up his worry that even if they are allowed to vote or maybe participate, where is the guarantee that whatever they are doing or their involvement is safeguarded with the current practices going on, like rigging and stealing of votes, which is actually a big issue, like he notes in his presentation. So that has been a very good one. And I want to just pause, because when I was reading the Daily Monitor recently, it shows that there's diaspora calling on the parliamentary representation. Not just that, but it's looking at the people of the country also, and the members who are putting in their efforts and energy so that at least the representative of the people this coming election becomes better than what we have seen. And ahead of the 2036 election, a lot of things will be happening, and this is where we now look at the challenges facing the diaspora coming out more vividly. Maybe Dr. Ochen, you could have a different view from this. Do you still agree with the challenges highlighted? Do you think we have something we can do, or the community in diaspora can also take part in this process and have get a meaningful election or participation for the better of this country? Over to you, Dr. Ochen.
I can't hear him. I can't hear him.
Maybe it could be a network issue. I am sure he's sorting it out, and he will be joining us very soon. And then we can just continue with him as he steps in. But maybe as he prepares to come and continue with his slot, I want to ask, is he stepping in anywhere? No, I think let's get to another person, and then when he joins in, we shall have him next. Miriam Chomgasho. Francis notes a number of things happening here in the country and talks about the problems that are being faced in the diaspora. And even when you want to mobilize something and send it back for it to do something here, people are always quoting it with a number of words. Even the environment here itself is not favorable for whatever is happening. So he frames a lot of things happening here, but also he talks about the concern of the community, the members in the diaspora, their participation. And he says he has this worry that maybe even if they participated, their participation will never be meaningful without the guarantee of this free and fair process that is being carried out here in the country, given our environment. I want to hear your perspective on this particular issue, Miriam Chomgasho, and this is your time. Over to you, Miriam.
Thank you, Gilbert. Yeah, Francis brought out important issues, especially for the diaspora participating in the voting, which was supposed to be this coming election. As per the court ruling in 2026, they said that the diaspora and Ugandans in prisons should be able to participate in national elections. But that didn't happen. I think which Paula can have something to say about that. I think the government wasn't willing to make it happen because we always know that they do what favors them. As they say, all the chaos that happens in NRM, the mistakes are all by design. And they had favored the ruling party and the ruling president stay in power. So anything that doesn't favor him won't obviously see the light of the day. And as we know, majority, I don't know whether it's by design or whatever, majority diasporians are opposition leaning. And those who are not opposition leaning, of course, are pro democracy. Like they can't accept the mess that happens at home. You want to bribe most of them. They won't allow you to rig the votes. So those things that help NRM thrive, the dirty stuff, the violence, the kidnapping people, abuse of human rights, the voter rigging, the diaspora community doesn't condone them and they don't fit in with them. So it would be in the favor of NRM party, I think, even to sideline the diaspora community from voting, participating in elections because they will be voting another party altogether. You hinted earlier, Gilbert, that the diaspora community was even asking for a seat in the parliament. I know we have a bloated parliament. Maybe there are some people who shouldn't be there, like the military and the security officers who are definitely have no business to play in the partisan politics. There are so many people who are seats which are redundant and should be eliminated. But the diaspora, which compose a big constituency in Uganda, and they contribute so much to our GDP through remittances and so many other things, given opportunity like skills transfer, investments, FDIs, and diplomacy, tourism, and so many things, education. So if they are given that space, if they are allowed to participate in policy making, if they are given enough resources to be able to implement the policies, if they are given a hearing, if they are given space to express themselves, either through elections or through another board or platform, I think there is a lot that diaspora community can do in fostering democracy in Uganda. We can be able to even preach what we practice here. Almost all countries in the Western world and even in Asia or other countries are currently practicing democracy. In Africa today, especially the sub-Saharan Africa, we are still stuck at that second stage of nation growing. The first stage being the struggle for independence and attaining independence. We seem to have failed to grow from after independence, full-fledged democratic governance states. And we stuck there. NRM has taken a big chunk of Uganda's uh, after independence days. Like if Uganda is 60, the 40 years have been taken over by NRM. But what has NRM contributed to nation building in Uganda? It has done its part, especially it has taken really credit. It really takes a lot of credit in eliminating tribalism to some extent. That visions that were there before NRM were much deeper than what it is today. So we give credit where it's due. But when it comes to democracy, I think they have failed totally. We know the 10-point program we are fighting for corruption, fighting against corruption, fostering democracy, which so far today, election rigging. Today, if you look back, election rigging, I think, has multiplied and doubled, and I don't know. quantified. If you look at corruption, there is, I mean, that's a sad picture that is out there. Government resources are being swindled left, right, with the condonment from the president himself, who moves around with sacks of money he can't account for. And it's done directly under his nose. So corruption, there is no democracy. He's the one who fights against his opponents. Right now, Kizza Besigye is in prison for reasons nobody can understand, and it's on record that he's the most arrested Ugandan ever. Reason being because he declares his interest to challenge Museveni about the presidency. Simple, which would be a democratic and national right for any Ugandan citizen. But you say it in Uganda today, you end up in prison. If you are not in prison, you are beaten, maimed, and imprisoned like Bobi Wine was. If you are lucky, you'll be harassed, you'll be chased around, you'll be tossed around, kidnapped, and so many other things that happen to Ugandans who come out to challenge the president. So it's the role of the diaspora, actually. They now push this call to us ourselves. It's our role to really look back in Uganda and try to preach what we practice here, copy these good practices of democracy from our own countries, adopted countries where we are, and preach some of it to Uganda. Today we have internet, so you can't say you are in diaspora and you can't access Ugandan community. If you want anything, you can access it. You have a voice, you have a platform, and you have access to information. So you can do anything you can in your power without even physically having to step in Uganda. But that aside, we also have economic power. We can lobby. We bring in enough contribution to GDP, enough to give us a platform where we can lobby for some changes we want to see happening home. I think it's time. This role has been neglected to the so-called civil society and third-party players, international donors and advocates, the preachers of democracy, like kind of those foreign powers who come in and say, hey, you have to do ABCD. But I think this is time for us to do this on our own, and we can borrow from what our fathers did during independence, the struggle for independence. They lobbied within themselves. Nyerere would call on Kenyatta, and Kenyatta would call on Nkrumah, would call on others, the African students in USA, African students in UK, everywhere. And those were the people who mobilized forces, mobilized the media, came out to form groups and organizations that came back home to fight for independence. And they did it with great success. So we can borrow from that. Let's unite. We can be Ugandans from USA uniting with Ugandan in Arab Emirates or in the Middle East, or Ugandans in China or South Africa or in Kenya or anywhere. We can unite from any other front. We don't have even to have political parties to do that. And we preach. We also do we do lobby for whatever we practice here. If democracy can happen in Kenya, why can't it happen in Uganda? I know Kenya is not the good example, but it's better than Uganda. I know Botswana is not the best Uganda, but they are so far ahead of Uganda. At least for them, they can transfer power peacefully. Uganda cannot do that, and we are at that level. And I want to throw this out to Fande Awichi. What do you think of the fact that NRM has presided over Uganda's democratic failure? What type of legacy do you want to leave to Uganda? And what do you envisage the future to be? Do we have to first kick you out for you to wake up and see that you are stagnating our country? We need to move forward. We need to see peaceful transfer of power at the presidential level. We need to see free and fair elections. We need to see professional security forces who don't interfere in elections and in opposition. We want to see free political parties who are able to campaign and lobby and and be able to canvass for votes and also put their party platforms and party ideas to the public freely, and let the public make an informed choice on what type of the leader they want. That's the democracy that NRM fought for. What happened? What went wrong? And how can we turn that around? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. It's been a good one, I must say. And it started all the way highlighting exactly and agreeing with what Francis brought in like those challenges that are being faced by the people in the diaspora. And I think as you end posing it to Afande Paula Awichi, I think now I want to get it to him. Because in the recent article, there's that bold line that comes out. We Ugandans in the diaspora, we are tired of standing in the sideline and just watching.
Ochen is around. I can see
Ochen.
Yes.
Ochen is around.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh yes. If you're back, let's do it once, and then Afanda, which will come in and just give us the final bits about this particular question. So I think as you left, I had already posed the question to you, and I had already told you most of the things, but we're just looking at the role of the diaspora in this election and the whole process of the election in this country. Which role do they have to play? And if there are any hindrances, like earlier mentioned, do you personally agree with them? In the environment where you are, do you really see them? And what do you think these hindrances are just deterring the participation of these members in the diaspora in many ways? What do you think is that role of the diaspora in this participation? Over to you, Ochen.
Thank you very much. And I think the role of the diaspora can be seen from a more vista, perspective, looking at the social, economic, and the political as well. As you are aware that the Uganda diaspora constitute a collective body of people dispersed in many parts of the world, through which networks can be developed and people mobilize and creating economically and social sustainable communities. And also, as you're aware that the diaspora are the engine of the economy in Uganda. Hence, as diaspora are the engine of the economy in Uganda, their political contributions also should be taken into account. But as you are aware, and as my colleagues already indicated or stated, that whether consciously or unconsciously, the state or the government of Uganda has kind of declined to offer platforms, for the diasporas. For instance, I would, think it'd be very prudent and healthy for the diaspora to have even seats in parliament, almost 4 seats in parliament, because there are many continents where we are spread in. Okay, maybe one for the youth, the women, and one maybe for the mainstream and for the seniors, okay, citizens. So, because right now, if you see, there are some interest groups that are in parliament, but I think the duplication of representation. I don't see the resourcefulness of the military in parliament. They should be impartial, but you find that they vote with the ruling party most times. That's one. And two, you have observed even that in the recent concluded elections, the youth, processes that's being done in the NRM process, you find that most times those with alternative voices hardly get, through in the electoral colleges. So they should be reviewed. Is it all inclusive, or is a kind of a subjective platform that kind of propels the ruling party to have more numbers in parliament? That's one. Three, you find that also in the diaspora, I think as others have indicated, the government of Uganda has used divide and rule in the diaspora. You find they have infiltrated lots of platforms or diaspora organizations, whereby you find there's no unity, so that they come and control and push the perspectives within the diaspora that is there. Next door here, what you find in North America, we had a very vibrant body in the past that galvanizes all the North American, people. But right now, if you are following, we are completely fractured. It's just skeleton of the old UNA we are having right now because of the external interference by the government of Uganda. Okay, and also I think that the diasporas are being sidelined or suffocated intentionally because they know that our views cannot be, or our votes cannot be compromised. They have kind of not facilitated our voting rights here, knowing that we are very difficult to be manipulated the way they do back home. You can give salt, sugar, and you can 5K. You can easily buy their votes. I don't think you could easily, make that kind of transaction among diasporas successfully. So they know that diaspora would largely vote against the sitting government because those in the diaspora are exposed. They have seen how others practice democracy, so they would expect the same to happen home. Hence, they would not embrace any form of, unresourceful political electoral, games. The diasporas always are kind of a group in two major categories. There are those who are here as political refugees, okay? There are those who came here also as economic, they are political, economic, they are professionals, they are students. So different categories of diasporas. And we will look at things sometimes differently. We might hold different worldviews about what's happening back home, about the politics, about the economy as well. So how can we, as diasporas, what role can we play in this upcoming electioneering process in the country? One, I think we should continue to advocate and create awareness and education among international bodies here, our respective sitting governments here. Let's get out to our senators, our members of parliament, our mayors, and tell them what's happening back home. This can be done. I remember many years ago, almost 10 years ago, at the peak of the Northern War, those of us in the diaspora, we were pushing for, peaceful end of the conflict in northern Uganda between the LRA and the UPDF. When others were saying they would like to crush them, those of us who were pro-peace were branded as LRA kind of sympathizers. But we knocked the doors of different stakeholders here, international bodies. We went to our senators, to the parliament, to the UN, and eventually we had what they call Gulu Walk, whereby, like on the 22nd of October, the entire world would join Ugandans walking and trying to project the plight of the kids in northern Uganda. So if again the diasporas, galvanize ourselves with one voice and advocate for a peaceful, democratic, transparent, inclusive electoral process that also brings on board, diasporas, would be good. And that's possible if we kind of join hands. It's possible. But as others said, no, I think I want to comment on what my colleague Miriam said, that the current government of Museveni and the NRM or NRM organization has done, that they've tried to de-escalate or address tribalism. I don't agree. In fact, this is the worst government in terms of tribalism. I can tell you, in east of Uganda. I'm not a young boy. I was there in the other past governments. I was there already as a kid. I observed. Right now, the country is fractured, divided. You know, one can even just suspect one of being a bad person just by the fact of appearance or coming from a certain part of the country, which is wrong. You know, in the past, I can tell you, Obote was from Lango, the UPC guy from Lango. But I can tell you in Bushenyi, he was like, you know, Italian. You go, you see a person like Kiwanuka, was a DP gentleman from Buganda. If you go to West Nile, who actually would warmly be welcome. Okay, it was a different branch of politics. There was economic and political inclusivity. You find a young person would be born in Bushenyi and go and study in Yumbe for maybe O level, then goes to maybe Toro Girls for A level, then go to Makerere University in Kampala. He's a nationalist. He's exposed. But now you find a person going to Mbarara, nursery, primary, high school, university there, you are not exposed. Even the concepts of local government, of trying to decentralize the system, whereby you find those in local government are primarily from one community in most cases. That doesn't what kind of even instill the sense of nationalism. So you see, so as diasporas, our role should be, we should try to, as we're going to the elections, to advocate and push for national cohesion, irrespective of our religion, the ethno-cultural identity we project, but instead we should see each other as Ugandans. And this can be done, you know, if we can have, you know, a national identity, then things like tribalism and even, do or die in electoral processes might even kind of go down, you know. You find right now, I have friends from other parts of the country, like from Western Uganda, who are very nice, but are very scared about post-Museveni government. They're not sure what might happen to them, and they're very innocent. So this can be debunked and addressed by we, the diasporas, who have been exposed, we have witnessed, we have lived in multicultural settings and identities. We can say that as Ugandans, we have enough space and land and resources for us to coexist and love each other and treat each other with dignity and respect. It's doable, you know. And I would also say that as diasporas, we are the economic engine of the economy in Uganda. We send lots of money home. We invest back home in Uganda. We support families. We do trade. We even support political activities. Others even support candidates during elections. Every day, if you check any diaspora, almost your WhatsApp, messages are full of requests for finance kind of support. Hence, we are a very fabric part of the social, economic, political aspects of Uganda. Hence, we should be included in the nation building. We need 4 seats if possible. Thank you. In Parliament.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alfred Ochen, for those insightful highlights about the members in the diaspora. And you've really given us another perspective about how the government here has done its part in actually segregating and dividing members in the diaspora, but also carrying on the failures on ground and actually bringing them to you, like division, and also having this divided rule crossover to you. Now we realize that on this call we have one gentleman that has not given us his mind, and the fact all of us have spoken, and he's coming in last. I'm sure maybe all of us have spoken about the government, have spoken about Uganda, have spoken about the electoral commission. I don't know which perspective he's bringing, whether he is the government himself, whether he's NRM, whether he's Museveni, but he will give us, he will try and answer some of our queries, but also give us his mind. Because this call of the diaspora representation was first made in 2013 by Winnie Byanyima as a diplomat by that time, and it continued that people were actually stressing to have it more represented. They were asking at least for each continent to have one representative within parliament. I mean, they say this has been possible because countries like South Africa, countries like Zimbabwe have had this happen, and people are asking questions. Why not us having it happen in Uganda? Maybe the 1995 constitution did not have it in place by that time, but they again stress that this constitution has been tampered with many times. Why can't we tamper with it and also have this provision that brings in members in the diaspora? Retired Major Paula Awichi, this is the point where I want you to come in. Most of these things have come up and they're targeting the government, looking at the people and whatever is happening within within the motherland and the country, and they call for their participation, they call for representation, they call for this having democracy as democracy. I want to first of all, maybe as you come to tackle this question, do you think in your own perspective they have a role anyway, or they're assuming things? And if they have it, do you see these problems existing? And in any case, if these are existing, do you think there can be ways of addressing them as the government and have them participate and have this process with their inclusion? Because even the Bank of Uganda notes them as the biggest and top contributors of the forex of forex. Retired Major Paula Awichi, I want to welcome you at this particular moment, and let's hear your view about this. Over to you, Retired Major Awichi.
Thank you so much. I'm going to reply to what I can. But I hope after my reply, we would be coming to a conclusion. So I didn't know, I didn't ask at the beginning how many hours we are going to spend here, because we have so many competing demands. But here is my reply. But before I even go to the detail of reply, your question was whether or not, in my view, the diasporans have a role. A huge one. That one don't even need to waste time. You have a huge role to play in anything to do with Uganda, whether a democracy, electoral, whatever, or development. So the answer is yes, you have a role. But there are three things that I wanted to mention before I answer what role you have to play. Mr. Francis, I don't know his method of debate. My view is that Mr. Francis leaves the ball and goes for the goal. Mr. Francis leaves the subject matter on the table and goes for the head of the people debating. Like the assumption and the assertion that I am defending the indefensible. I am defending. You attack what I have put on the table. Don't attack me. Attack what you have put on the table. And it makes sweeping statements like, I am not aware that Mr. Witch is not aware. I don't know how you measure awareness. In awareness or meter, awareness or gram, that you have already measured that I am not aware. And then you talk things like that me and NRM can't think of any good thing. My point is, we should debate with a cool-headedness. Tackle the ball, don't go for the leg. The issues I'm putting are on the table. You tackle the issues, don't go for my head. Maybe it is about our background, but for me, our background, including school you went to. I went to Ntari school, a very civil school, which would really not make me attack the person, but attack what he is saying. So I just thought we would, in my opinion, improve on our debate by not attacking the person, but attacking what he's saying. Now, to the role of diaspora, I don't know if you and Francis know that I have lived in diaspora for 8 solid years. And I have been a participant in diaspora activities. For example, for clarity, under the United Nations human rights system, when states pass or pass a convention. I pick an example, Convention on the Rights of the Child. The UN provides that for purposes of seeing that states are complying, there must be a body of 9 eminent persons around the world. Now, 9 in this case, if you put that, there was a time that some people have estimated the world to have 9 billion. It means one person is representing a billion people. I've been on that 9 body, elected from New York by 193 ambassadors, secret ballot, and I've won that election twice. Each term is 4 years, and therefore, when you're elected from New York, you serve in Geneva. So I've served in Geneva, being a member of diaspora. I have been in Switzerland for 8 years as a diasporian, serving on human rights body at a global level, so to say, a world judge of human rights. So I am very conversant with the feelings and aspirations of. I'm very aware about the feelings and the aspirations of diasporians. So I just thought I would say that because somebody may think I've just come from Lira and I'm dreaming about the feelings of diasporians, and I've never known it. So I have been in Geneva for 8 years, elected on the prestigious human rights expert team, human rights judges, which I served diligently for 8 years with honor. So I know the feeling of diaspora. Now, about the role you can play. Diasporians can sway public opinion. Diasporians can sway public opinion either by their interpersonal relationship abroad or going to the authorities that somebody already mentioned, or even a mere demonstration on the street. It can sway opinion either in favor or against a government. And that is why some of us feel that part of our mandate is to engage diasporians and explain what NRM is doing. And I also seek their opinion on how we can better it. Because one way of influencing things in Uganda is swaying public opinion. Imagine a situation where Ugandans are demonstrating on the street of Washington, New York, and whatever, in a German, where it would paint badly. And that is why we also feel that if we are honest at doing the right thing, then the diasporians want to demonstrate. So you can't force them. After all, they're abroad. What will save us is, are we doing the correct thing? And also, if we are doing, are they aware? Can we engage them? So clearly, you can sway public opinion. That is one role you can play. International opinion. The second thing, in my opinion, that you can do is sending resources. You have been doing it already, somebody has been saying, and resources from various activities, whether at your family level or even sending to candidates. About presidential election, there's a law which puts in order how to receive money from abroad. But I think if you do it in accordance with the law, you can also do it. Whether you support GMA or what, that is your business. But I'm saying resources, whether domestic level, is part of helping Uganda and helping the governance system as well. The other thing that you can do as diasporians is sharing best practices. Of course, this is not to say that everything outside Uganda is better. No, but there are best practices abroad, and I believe there are also best practices in Uganda, which can be learned from. So, your experience abroad can help by you sharing best practices. You will recall that the independence call, apart from the students who went abroad, even soldiers who went for Second World War. My old man was in Burma, near India. uh, uh, they came back from Second World War and they participated because they had seen experience. They had seen that the colonialists were also human beings like us. They had been in the same front with them. They saw others who are cowards, those who are dying, those who are dilating in the front line. They said, but these people are as good as or as bad as us. And they form a big bulk of people who are agitated for development. So sharing best practices is one of the things you can do. The other thing is coming to vote. If you are registered and complied with the law, you can come and vote as well. In this case, you'll be expressing your opinion whether you vote, whichever party you vote for. For me as NRN, I would have time to persuade you to vote for NRN, to vote for President Museveni. But if I fail to convince you and you vote for any other person, that be it. So voting is one of the things you would do. Maybe for Francis' case, even you can contribute by abusing NRM. Maybe if you abuse us, we can see what you abuse us for and we correct it. But that is on the other side. Now, about uh, the issue of whether or which side would diasporians vote. Do you know that the research we did is that diasporians would vote for NRM? That is the research we did. How? Because the voting procedure is that you must be a legitimate Ugandan abroad. This, therefore, would put off many people who have claimed refugee status because they won't have the legitimate paper to register for this voting. In fact, when you declare refugees, you kind of lose your citizenship in a way, for want of better words. So many people who are agitators, who are on the street, would actually not qualify for eligibility for voting. The eligible people who vote, the students, many of them are either from well-off families or sponsored by government, would vote for government. The people who have gone for business would vote for government. People who are working in organizations would vote for government. So this fear that if we put a vote today, NRM would lose abroad, think about it. The majority that you are seeing here who have stage managed political exile will not qualify to be registered as eligible voter. And we know for a fact that people here even hire police and hire apartments and stage eviction and say, make him to be violently evicted. We don't want homosexuals. You get out of this place. While they are recording, then they take to American embassy that have been evicted. Museveni hates homosexuals. Please let me go away. And they get. And yet when they reach there, some we have followed, they get married to women. And yet here there's a recording. So the many people who have claimed political exile status will not seek eligibility for the voting. If there's any fear that NRM will lose election abroad, far from it. So that is it. Now, somebody is saying at 40 years you have not received much. The list is long. I don't want to go into it. But infrastructure, colleagues, and maybe because you stay abroad, you don't know. Did you know that now you can access Uganda from any border to another border on good tarmac? For example, if you come from Nimule, South Sudan, you can drive from Nimule on a big white tarmac through Gulu, through the national park, up to Oima, or even if you pass Karuma, up to Oima, Kigoma Oima, Masindi Oima, Fort Fortal, to Mbarara, to Ntungamo, to Rwanda on tarmac. If you came from Congo, you can come from Kasese to Malaba on tarmac, whichever part of the country. Even our traditional bridges, which were on River Nile, which was Jinja and Karuma. We have now a new one in Karuma, in Jinja. We have another one in Kayunga. We have another one in the national park. And we are about to have another one crossing to Apache. So infrastructurally, we have tried. The unity that my friend is trying to downplay, Uganda is united. Can you imagine that since NRM came to power, many countries have died? Are you aware that many countries have died? For example, Sudan was divided since NRM came to power. Somalia is in pieces since NRM came to power. Yugoslavia is in pieces to the extent that when Tito died, Yugoslavia broke into pieces to the extent that Serbia and Montenegro was one country when they were playing World Cup. When they qualified for a quarterfinal, it broke into two countries. And we're asking them, if you win the cup, where will the cup go? To Montenegro or to Serbia? We have maintained unity against diversity. Now, right now, if you're in Kabale and you talk on phone in Karamojong, who cares in Kabale whether you're speaking your Karamojong or what? We have maintained unity amidst challenges. We have had countries in Europe, which Liechtenstein, 37,000 people, they also claim the republic. Andorra, others have 5,000, they claim themselves a republic. Here we have forged the unity, we have remained together, of course, despite the challenges. We are the only country maybe where the coach of a national football team, the Cranes, uses English for purposes of unity. And we are moving forward. So NRM has made unity and it will continue to make unity. If you want to judge Libya, Libya has broken into pieces. If you want to judge unity, judge in the juxtaposition of how many countries have died since NRM came to power. Maybe some of us thought countries would not die, but they have died. Now, comparing Uganda and Kenya and other countries, my dear, I wish you'd see it here. You are saying you can't compare Uganda with Kenya, Kenya is better. How? Let me give a classic example. Recently in the Kizza Besigye case, a Kenyan lawyer, Martha Karua, is that the right name? Yes. She wanted to come and be an advocate in the case of Kizza Besigye. It took some time for her to get a practicing certificate. Getting a practicing certificate is not easy and should not be made easy. Even those of us who get advocate practicing certificate, it's like entering through an eye of a needle. If getting to parliament was as difficult as those of us who get practicing certificate, parliament would be a very good thing. Now, Karua had problems in getting PC, but at the end of the day, she got it anyway. She went to court martial, she made her submission. She came to civil court, she made her submission. She flew, a few weeks later, she flew from Nairobi to Dar es Salaam. I can assure you, she was stopped at the airport, told to board the immediate plane back. And these are the Uganda you are comparing with others. Agatha, our own Agatha in Uganda, was picked from Dar es Salaam, put in near Rakai here, in the border Mutukula, and said, Nenda Wuko in Kiswahili, go there. And here is the Uganda you are saying you can't compare with Kenya. We are far, far better. If anything, you can't compare the degree of patience and tolerability Museveni has against opponents or against people with different views. This Kenyan lady case is a test. If Tanzania stopped at the airport and told go back, when she was enjoying the privileges of an advocate in court martial, an advocate civilian court, and here you are saying Uganda is the worst or NRM government is the worst, think about it. Somebody said, another question was, what is NRM contributing to Uganda's democratic failure? Now, if you gave me that question as a NRM, first of all, you have presumed there's a democratic failure. So you are saying that there is no democratic failure. If you measure, I think there are bodies which do measure. We have had challenges about voter bribery, intimidation state and all that, but we are not the worst. If anything, there's even democracy fatigue. People are fatigued with voting and voting and voting. So if we only can manage our democratic processes well, I don't think we are a democratic failure by any definition. Where would the diasporian votes? I've already answered that. Representation of diasporian. I mean, first of all, the Constitution is a living document. It is not hard and frozen. So if there's any need, indeed, for a representation of diasporians, you advocate for it. You should actually even convince some of us so that we act as your advocate. So the Constitution is not hard and frozen. I think the last report we did, the last survey we did was that there are about 300 million, 3 million Ugandans abroad, and with a big, significant economic contribution. So, if you feel you need representation, advocate for it. The Constitution is not hard and frozen. After all, there's a convention in UN called Convention on Migrant Workers. That is even the starting point, because the world saw that there's imbalance of labor around the world. In Germany, everybody's old. In Middle East, maybe they don't have domestic servants. Everywhere there's imbalance. So because of imbalance, the world came up with a convention called Migrant Workers Convention. This convention states have ratified, including Uganda. It is expected to protect the families of migrants and the migrants abroad. Countries which are so particular about this are countries like Mexico, for those who live in America. And to the extent that Mexican even acted a movie saying one day without Mexican, because they're saying if America thinks that Mexican going there are a burden to them, can we stop, lay down our tools for one day? We see if Americans will be there, because there are 10 million Mexicans. And
Richard Major, in a minute.
Mm.
In a minute, yeah.
Yes, I was concluding by saying using the precedent in the migrant workers, which protects rights of people outside their home country, we could still begin as a point of departure to argue and advocate for representation of diasporans in parliament. I'm not against that. Only that you have to put out your case clearly. You have to bring people on board, those who will support your view. And I'm passing because, by the way, I'm still a member. I'm still a member of ICC. So I even consider myself abroad. I'm an expert with International Criminal Court. I think I can.
Thank you so much. It must have been a lot of work to really come in through with all the comments and questions put up by the team here. But I want to thank you for having noted almost each and every person's presentation, and you took time to really answer according to what everyone said. That was really good, and thank you for that perspective. At this particular moment, for us here according to the Ugandan time, I am seeing that I'm remaining with only 15 minutes to have this show ended. I want to have us use this time to give our final thoughts and recommendations in regard to this matter of the Uganda diaspora, and looking ahead to the coming 2026 election. So I want to give us this opportunity. And Francis was pinned, and a lot of things are looking up to him. I want to begin with him as he to give us his final thoughts and also recommendations as we get to the end of this show. Over to you, Francis, in 1 minute.
Thank you, moderator and fellow panelists, and again, I found a wish for again defending the indefendable. I have no apologies for that. And he was talking that I used the word whether he's aware, but he has also used it around 10 times in his submission, and I was listening and noting down. Having said that, I would still say that the one key element of democracy achieving democratic dispensation is to ensure that people are not defranchised as how it has been done in Uganda. So it is important as we conclude that the long due electoral reforms cannot be rushed, but they are very important. And therefore, if we have credibility in the elections, the members who have different ideologies, for example, in opposition, we are not harassed. Then if the government is a functioning government, he's talking of infrastructure. Again, I would say he has not moved to other parts of Uganda. Go to the road leading to Kampala for potholes. You will just see. And even in Kampala, those potholes. But he's talking of roads and so on, which I don't agree. Civil liberties have been triumphed on. The political culture is dead. The rule of law in Uganda doesn't work. There is no equal treatment. So we have like a backsliding in terms of democracy. And then, of course, there is this rise of authoritarianism. He can't rule out his I don't know whether his boss or his master is tending to authoritarianism by all standards. So there is no integrity in that, and freedom of expression is completely lacking, and therefore that's where our distrust of this government for all this time it has been there to steer and move Uganda forward. We doubt that can work, and that's what annoys me or put me off is having the brains like Afande Awich, as since he's a member of international bodies and so on, but you find what they are doing is contrary to what the international standards or law would demand. And I don't doubt, by the way, that's why you find that their boss, Museveni, instead of them advising him, he's the one who advises them. So therefore, their technical expertise becomes null and void. So if you are a member of those people are members, or there is exposure to, on those different international forums, and then you come back home, it's not reflected. Because I have always told people, don't tell me or remind me how you are my dad. Do what a dad is supposed to do in a home. I will definitely know that you are my father. So this constant reminder, I don't think it should be reflected in the action. And therefore, it doesn't also necessarily mean that because you allowed Martha Karua to come and practice, then that is a golden standard. Then everything is okay. Everything is a bed of roses in Uganda. That's not the way how democracy works. So I still believe that we still have a lot to do, but all is underpinned by collapse of the democratic dispensation in Uganda, failure of institutions, failure of most of the government structures. And it's a high time. I know which your government you are saying is good, is mass, and so on, but it is time you can step aside and other people clean up the mess that you have done for the past 40 years.
Thank you, Francis.
The good things you have done, we acknowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis, for your final thoughts and recommendations. I think we lost Dr. Alfred, but let's go to Miriam Chomgasho. You'll be giving us those final thoughts and recommendations in regard to the matter of the Ugandans in the diaspora and their role in this election ahead of the 2026. Over to you, Miriam.
Thank you, Gilbert, and my fellow panelists. Thank you, Afande, for responding to our comments and questions. Some point of clarification: the Ugandans in diaspora were granted the opportunity. Of course, they already had the right, as all Ugandans do, but the Constitutional Court emphasized and clarified that the Ugandans in diaspora should vote, and leaving them out is an act of discrimination. And that was in 2020 in a case put by Khalidi and others. So for the record, the Constitution is already in the Constitution that diaspora should be voting, and the court ruled that we should be voting in 2026 elections, but the Ugandan government slacked on that, and that's why I was saying they did it on purpose, because there is no other reason. Logistically, they never tried to find out how to do it, because other countries are doing it. Rwandese, they vote from anywhere. Even those in Uganda vote at their embassy. The Kenyans vote from outside their countries. So if something can be done by Rwanda and Kenya, definitely it can be done by Uganda. I brought closed home comparisons so that we don't say, oh, we can't do it, we are Africa. No, we are African, we can do it, and other countries are doing it much better. As for the democracy, we definitely can do better. And I found out which you didn't talk about the legacy of NRM. You came to fight for democracy, 10 points program. How many points have you achieved on the 10 points program? Thank you, Chen, for correcting me. I said NRM has achieved a lot in uniting Uganda, but definitely, okay, I want to say maybe they have not made it worse, but if we can go back, I remember our parents telling us the story. Either it's because of the political party rivalry, but we were chased by, if you were in Uganda, you couldn't do something with them, Nyankore. If you had this and that, there was that tension. And if you are UPC, you definitely can't associate with DP or any other party. So those small, there were big rifts actually. No, they may not call them small, but they were big enough to divide the country. And NRM really toward that. And that credit goes to NRM team and Museveni as a president. So I really I appreciate that point. As a historian and a political analyst, I can't just wash over it. I think it's a big achievement, and it should be a foundation for uniting and developing this country. Should be a foundation for political tolerance and building democracy. But we don't want to take that step, and that's why I want to call upon NRM. Really, you were denying our country an opportunity to move forward. Thank you so much. And on that note, I wish you a nice weekend and thank you, all of you, for making it to that show. Bless.
Thank you so much, Miriam, for those wonderful final thoughts on this particular part. Ladies and gentlemen, we have only very few minutes to have this show ended. But I want to thank you so much for having put in the time, the energy, and also the resources that you are here and you're giving this time to really discuss this pivotal and crucial part of the Uganda's state. As we head to the 2026 election, the voices abroad should not be silenced. I personally believe in that. They can really be pivotal in shaping a transparent and more inclusive and democratic nation that we all deserve. My name is Kato Gilbert Vitarho. It's been a pleasure having you all. And at this particular moment, we will have our show ended from here. And thank you for making the time being here. And thank you, Center for Constitutional Governance. Making sure this is happening. And we have to have this time to discuss with people in the diaspora and also hear their views and perspectives on this particular matter. Thank you so much, everyone, and especially our panelists for being here. I wish you a nice weekend, and we will maybe catch up next time on this show. Thank you.